Hey everyone, welcome to Craven Something Scary, where it's all horror all the time. In this video, I'm going to continue discussing the new Radio Silence interview that took place on December 21st and feature what I feel are some of the remaining highlights of the interview. So this video is part 2 of my interview breakdown. Let's go! So continuing with the interview, Radio Silence was asked, what can the audience expect in this version of Ghostface? Are we going to see more creative ways of killing in this movie?
I think that for us, we really wanted to make sure that Ghostface was terrifying, number one, right? I think it's one of the things that I wouldn't say you forget, but I think that the idea of what Scream is and the tone of Scream has has transcended itself in some ways, and I think you sort of forget until you go back and you watch particularly that first movie just how absolutely terrifying it is. There is no moment in that opening sequence where you feel safe, and that is by, of course, design. I mean, it's one of the most well-crafted moments in any film ever made, full stop. And I think we wanted to really respect that. We wanted to really make a horror movie first and foremost. But the other thing that we love about the franchise that we definitely wanted to represent was, there's something so unique and identifiable about all of the kills and all of the chases. And you can go down the list and just name them very specifically by the gag. Tatum getting caught in the garage door, and so we loved that specificity, and we really wanted to drill down in the script with Guy and Jamie and make sure that all of those moments felt like they had those special ingredients. They all had a really unique identity that would make them memorable and hopefully, live up to the countless kills that we've now seen in the franchise.
So one of the things I love in this segment is when Tyler talks about how they wanted to make sure that number one, Ghostface stays terrifying. And he recalled the opening scene to Scream 96 with Drew Barrymore's murder and how terrifying that scene was, and also that there was not a moment in that opening where you felt safe, which I thought was a great commentary. Now, they wanted to keep that degree of terror in the new Scream movie because they respect it and they really set out to make a horror movie first and foremost. And I just love to hear this. As we have seen in the trailers and the featurettes, this movie already seems to have a slightly darker tone and feel to it than the previous Scream films, especially more the middle of the sequels, like maybe Scream 3 and even Scream 4, although Scream 4 did get pretty dark, especially in the finale. But overall, it does seem to have a darker feel to it. It really does. And I believe this response from Radio Silence not only reinforces that, but really shows that it was their mission from the beginning. And I also really like to hear that they gave special attention to the kills in this movie and how they wanted to make sure that they will be memorable and have these special ingredients for them to have a special identity, as we have seen in other previous films. So all of this together sounds like they set out to make a Scream 5 that's a terrifying horror movie with memorable kills, and I'm just so excited to see how they do it. Okay, next up, Radio Silence was asked, how have special effects changed since Scream 96, and how it may impact what we see in Scream 5? Here's what they had to say.
One of the things we kind of wanted to really get into when we started this was to make sure we did as much practically as possible. So in a lot of ways, I kind of hope it hasn't been updated too much. I mean, I'm sure that there are kind of things that we're not even aware of that have gotten better and easier for the special effects people to make that stuff. But our kind of big conversation with our special effects guys was like, how do we do this where we won't need visual effects as much as possible? Let's do everything we can do practically. Let's do it practically. And, you know, they really stepped up to the plate, and we're really excited to like kind of lean into that and get back to basics. They're all gigantic, you know, horror nuts and gigantic Wes Craven nuts. And there's some stuff in here that they, you know, I can't say what yet, but that, I'm walking into spoilers. Sorry, guys. There's a lot of attention to detail when it comes to that. And, you know, they really just knocked it out of the park. Like, hopefully people will see that when they see the movie, that we didn't rely on visual effects.
Okay, what gets me so pumped about this segment is that Radio Silence wanted to avoid visual effects as much as possible. I love that they went into this movie with the intent on using as many practical effects as possible for the scenes. And what they revealed about how they met with the special effects team and said to them from the beginning, how do we do this where we don't need visual effects? Like from the very beginning, that was the game plan. And how the special effects team all stepped up to the plate and were also all Wes Craven nuts and horror fans as well. So they put all they had into this, as well as the cast and crew and the directors and everything else. Even the special effects team are fans, and you know, making practical effects, that's got to be their most amazing thing for them, because there's so much digital going on that a lot of times movies get away from doing practical effects. They just do. And I think the fact that we're going back to that old school practical effects, which are, if they're done well, you just can't beat them. In my opinion, if you don't have a budget, then they could be really bad. We've seen movies, not the Scream films, of course, but I'm talking about low budget B-level movies that they're just terrible, right? But with a budget like Scream, you can do some masterful stuff if you have the means, which they do. So I'm very excited to see the practical effects being used. I was personally really hoping that was going to be the case, that they weren't going to try and put a bunch of CGI and things into the movie, and it sounds like they are not going to do that. That was the last thing they wanted to do. So I'm really happy that they are not going to be relying on visual effects. Now, Radio Silence next was asked, what was it like directing the Legacy cast? And what was your experience doing that? Here's what they had to say about that.
I mean, it was surreal. Every moment of the process with them was surreal. We would joke on set that it was, you'd sort of show up, you know, with a split brain. It was like part of you was just a fan, and you were amazed that you got to be on set with your idols, and the other part of you was like, shit, we actually have to make a movie. we have a job we need to do. And so those two pursuits were in constant conflict with each other. But I think what we found so quickly is that there is a warmth and a love of these movies that is shared, you know, by all of the legacy cast that is just really, really deeply profound. And you know, they've carried these characters with them for 25 years, and their understanding of what these movies are and who those characters are, I mean, it's invaluable, right? Their feedback, the way that they sort of guided us into the right moments, the right sort of nuance of all of those moments was really we would have been lost without it. I mean, we were definitely the new kids coming into an existing family in so many ways, and they were just the most generous, wonderful people you could ever hope to work with, and obviously they're also just fantastic actors. Like there were so many days on set where we'd finish a take and we'd forget to call cut because you're just like watching the monitor. Holy shit, like, why? I can't believe I'm watching Sidney Prescott. I can't believe I'm watching Gale. I can't believe I'm watching Dewey. And that was a daily occurrence for us with them. I mean, they're just magnetic. And it will, that obviously you will see it in the movie. It really, they shine so bright in this one.
This was such a great segment of the interview. I mean, you can just hear how much the Radio Silence team admires and are fans of the OG3. The part where they talked about how they would sometimes forget to call cut after filming a scene because they were so enamored with watching them on the screen and so immersed in seeing Nev, Courtney, and David that they completely forgot to call cut. And that's just great. I mean, this is a big deal to me because there are lots of directors they could have hired to make this movie who may not have even cared about the franchise or respected the legacy left by Wes Craven in the first 4 films. However, not only do Radio Silence care about the franchise and Wes's legacy, they are genuine fans of both Wes and the Scream films. Now, we've heard it before in articles, online, but to hear Radio Silence really be transparent and let us hear it from their own mouths what it was like for them as directors and fans to make this movie, you could hear their excitement, and really you can tell they're geeking out to be able to have done this film and to be with the OG3. And as Tyler even said, they are their idols. These are their idols, they really adore them and the OG3 of the franchise. So they just care a lot about them. And this was a huge, huge deal for them, to make this movie. So I really enjoyed this entire interview, and I really thought it was the most insight we've been given up to this point about making Scream 5 from the director's point of view. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed part 1 that was on yesterday I put out, and of course I hope you enjoyed today's part 2 of it as well, and also felt that energy and that excitement that I felt coming from Radio Silence as they discussed the film. It was a great interview. All right, guys, that's everything I wanted to cover in this video. But as it is with every video I post, I do want to begin a discussion with you in the comments below right now. What are your thoughts on part 2 of this Radio Silence interview? Give me your opinions, thoughts, ideas, and if you have any new theories or tweak your theories based on any information you heard in this interview. So start leaving your comments below now and let's discuss it together. Well, that is it for this update, but I'll be back soon with more Scream and other horror movie content. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, this is Craven Something Scary, where it's all horror all the time. Thanks for watching.